A KRFO interview with an Owatonna High School graduate who is once again going to be the headline event of the night when O-Town Throwdown 2 comes to the Four Seasons Center in Owatonna. Pleasure to chat with Travis Wiuff as you get ready for the big battle. Travis, how is it going to prep for that bout?
Thanks for having me, Roy. Training is going really well. I feel good. I've known about the fight for about 6 weeks, so I'm kind of always training, but once I find out when I have an official date, I kind of tailor my training around that date. So about 6 weeks ago, I started amping up the training, and I'm getting close to winding down. Today will actually be my last hard day of working out, and from here on out, it's kind of just rest and recover. So far, so good.
And as we're talking, it's a little bit more than a week before the fight itself. So how long do you go? You mentioned 6 weeks to kind of prepare. How long has it been since your last fight, and what's a typical time frame in between fights for you?
My last fight was last October, which is kind of long. I don't normally like to take that long of a break, but during the winter, I coach wrestling over here in Casson, and it's hard to juggle both things at once. I like to devote 100% of my time to whatever I'm doing, and then during the wrestling season, I like to really concentrate on just coaching. So I try not to schedule any fights during the wrestling season, which is November through March. So I try not to schedule anything during then, and then once the wrestling season ends, I start looking for things or start trying to contact promoters, or I also have a manager that lines things up for me, and I let him know that I'm a little bit more available and my schedule's a little bit more wide open. So normally it's not 6 months. I like to stay active. I still feel really good, and I still feel healthy. And every couple months, 2-3 months, I like to stay active.
Do you still do some pretty long trips? Because I know the opportunities have been there for you to travel around the world through your history being an MMA fighter. What about now? Do you still do some trips to other parts of the country or world?
Let me think. It must have been last year. I went to Japan.
Okay.
That's by far my favorite place to compete. They just look at the sport a little bit differently. They've been doing it a lot longer, so they just have a little bit more respect for the sport over there. It's just looked at differently. It's kind of looked at as how we looked at football. The National Football League here in the United States is their shows are held on a Sunday afternoon, and it's a family event, and it's a pretty cool deal over there. So yeah, I'm still traveling, but I also work at the Casson High School as a paraprofessional, so that kind of limits my traveling and things I can do. But if something pops up during the summer, then I'll definitely take advantage of it, and that's what happened last year when I got to travel over to Japan. That was my 4th trip over to Japan, so it's one of my favorite places to compete.
What do you know about your opponent for Saturday, April 18th at the Four Seasons Center in Owatonna?
He's been around a while. He's a veteran of the sport. He's fought in some bigger promotions. He fought overseas. He's fought some bigger names. He at one time was a top 2 or 3 guy in the state as far as heavyweights go. He ran into some bad luck, fought some tougher competition as of late. So I think his record now is 16-9. I'm not sure on that, but at one time he was like 12-1 something. But he's been around. He's a tough guy. I've had the chance to train with him for a little bit, quite a few years ago actually. He hits hard. He's a hard-nosed kid, and I definitely have to be prepared and be ready to fight come next Saturday.
Any strategy notes that you're willing to share? What's your approach to a match against this guy, or just in general?
With me, there's really not much of a secret. I've been around long enough, and fought, so many times that my strategy is take the guy down and use my wrestling and secure a victory either from submissions on the ground or from ground and pound. Finish him on the ground. But that's definitely the goal. I think I have a clear advantage on the ground, or if I can get him to the ground, use my wrestling to get him to the ground, I can win a fight there. So that's the plan.
What can you say about the card for that night, the venue? Just some thoughts about competing in Owatonna as well.
It's always fun to come back to Owatonna. It's fun for me, obviously, being from there and seeing a lot of people that I normally don't get to see and be able to compete in front of a hometown crowd. It's always exciting. The card itself looks like a good card. Looks like there's some good fights, some good fighters on the card. I know if it's anything like last year, it'll be a full house and it'll be a rowdy crowd, which for a fighter it makes it even more exciting. It's loud and makes it fun to go out there and fight. It's a fun atmosphere to compete in. So I'm expecting the same thing this year, if not more, and it just should be a fun night.
Talking to Travis Wiuff, Owatonna High School graduate. O-Town Throwdown 2 is Saturday, April 18th at Four Seasons in Owatonna. CageTix.com for ticket information. And as you mentioned, Travis, you do work with high school wrestlers through Cass and Manorville. I imagine that you'll get the question from some of them on occasion in getting into MMA. What do you say to somebody? What are your thoughts about that as this sport grows for people who might be interested?
My honest opinion is don't get involved.
Okay.
If I was going to give somebody advice, I'd tell them to go, get your high school education, get your high school diploma, go to college, get your degree. Mm-hmm. And if you still feel like you want to get punched in the face, then maybe join a gym and think about doing some amateur fights or some small town things. But there's not a lot of money in the sport. A lot of people think it's like boxing where there's millions of dollars. There's very few fighters in this sport that are making that type of money. There's not a lot of fame or fortune. It's a pretty a low sport, I would say, as far as money, fame, fortune. People think, they watch it and they see the UFC and they think, they can do that someday. And those top guys that are making a lot of money are extremely talented. I mean, people don't understand how good those guys are, and they're one in a million type athlete. People don't understand that because the sport is so new. It hasn't been around a long time. But I definitely think people should get their degrees, go to college, take that route, and then if they still want to do something, maybe get involved in it. But I see a lot of young athletes now who want to go right from high school and make the jump into mixed martial arts and think how there's going to be money there and they can make a living off of it, and it just doesn't happen like that. The sport's not big enough, and they haven't been around long enough to make that kind of jump.
Do you see the sport continuing to grow, though?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will, but I don't think it'll ever be comparable to, like, Major League Baseball or the NFL. Boxing's been around hundreds of years, and, there's obviously some boxers that are making really good money. There's a lot of boxers that aren't, so I think the sport will continue to grow and go to places it's never been before, but I don't ever see it being like the major four,
As you said, though, a big crowd is expected on the 18th, so maybe just a final word or any other comments you'd like to share about what fans will see when they go to Four Seasons on Saturday the 18th.
Well, I'm really excited, for next Saturday night. I think it's going to be a fun show. It's always exciting to come back to Owatonna and compete, and I'm sure the crowd will be lively and excited and loud, and for us fighters, you guys make it fun to go out there and compete. If it wasn't for you guys, it'd be a fist fight in an alley with nobody watching. So with you guys there and cheering and making it an exciting night. It makes a fun night for the fighters also. So I hope everybody comes out, and it should be fun to see everybody.
All right, it's a big night of fighting, a number of bouts on the card, a number of folks with Owatonna ties as well, in addition to Travis Wiuff. And Kevin Asplund is the name of your opponent, is that right?
That's right.
All right, for that heavyweight super fight then as the final fight of the night on the card, Saturday the 18th. Travis Wiuff, thank you for the time and the best of luck as you go through your final preparation.
Thanks, Roy. I appreciate it.